Meet Ian. Ever since he was a child, he was different from other kids, but he didn't notice. A teacher gives him and the other kids a paper with questions on it. The first question asking to introduce his family. Instead of saying how much he lives like any other child, he writes that his dad is alcoholic and sometimes batters him when he's drunk, and it's scary every time he drinks. Then the next question asks what's the hardest for him, and he writes his family. And a kid notices this and asks if his family is troubling him that much. And he noticed for the first time, it's better to hide what's happening to him instead of speaking on it in school. He crumbles the paper he wrote and throws it and jokingly says he made a mistake. But out of school, he sees a child crying to his mom, and he's alone at the bench instead of his dad caring for him. He beats him for eating small and doesn't correct him gently. When he's sick, instead of the dad worrying, he watches TV not being bothered. In school, Ian starts to lie about his family and says he loves his family, knowing well that his family and other families are completely different. But Ian becomes his own grown-up and takes care of himself and grows up like that. He goes for a job interview and does good, and they send him a message saying he passed. He goes home with a smile on his face, but that all crumbles down when he finds strangers in his house and threatening his dad with a knife. The gangsters were loan sharks. As they were leaving, they tell Ian not to live like his dad. And Ian gets mad because his life once again is falling apart. Ian's life is like this to the point he becomes a zombie. He moves without knowing where he's going and ends up in front of people that are cheering. He ended up in an underground illegal fighting place. And the opponent that just knocked the guy out asks if he's new. And Ian tries to explain, but they throw money at him and tell him if he wins, all the money on the ground will be his. And Ian looks at the ground and still tries to refuse. But the guy still insists and says he will add a bonus. And Ian finally accepts the money and takes it. And the guy walks over to the side and explains that the fight will be 5 minutes, and there's no such thing as foul, and they should go all out. While Ian is putting the money in his pocket, his opponent goes for an attack, but he dodges. But the opponent doesn't wait and goes for a kick, which Ian blocks it with his hand. And his opponent rushes him and starts to throw a barrage of punches, and Ian holds guard. But the opponent stops and throws a fast jab and sees Ian isn't even moving. Then his opponent warms up his shoulder and goes for a jab, but Ian dodges. But his opponent grabs his head and goes for a knee strike and knees him. And Ian is just enduring this and remembers the times his father beat him and how his eyes just changed into a zombie-like state to the point he doesn't feel fear or pain. And that's when his father took him to the hospital. And when he found out the bill, he took him out of the hospital. And Ian grew up like this. And we are back to the present, and his opponent gut checks him, making him not able to breathe, and his opponent hits him in the jaw, making him go limp. But Ian stops himself and enters this zombie-like state again, because he himself knows no matter what task or job he does, he can't collapse. And his opponent is surprised about this, but keeps attacking. But Ian waits and dodges a punch and gets in his face and launches a hard-ass punch to his jaw. Then using this, he keeps the attack. His opponent waits for a chance for an opening and finally sees it and goes for an attack. But Ian punches him fast as hell and knocks him out. And the people start cheering, seeing the current champion was defeated. And Ian stands there and is breathing heavily. This manhwa is a good read, and the characters introduced later in the story are cool as hell, and the fight scene are good. This manhwa was a hidden gem, so I suggested you guys go read this manhwa, and I hope you enjoyed and subscribe for more.